Hey, my name is James Green. I'm with Carbon Games. We made AirMech VR for the Oculus Rift.
What were your goals heading into the game?
Our goals for AirMech were to make the definitive, comfortable experience for the Oculus Rift. We've always loved the idea of having these toys that you just have come to life, and doing it in VR was the best way to do it. You know, we've tried to do it for years, with a normal game, try to recreate that experience. And, we felt that we did a really good job, but once we had VR, it's it just worked. It's just watching those little tanks and mechs come to life is magical inside the Rift. So virtual reality let us, from a creative design standpoint, do things that we didn't have access to before. If I show you a little world with some little tanks and things running around, once it's on a 2D screen, it's oh, that's cute, that's nice. But when you're in VR, when you're in a fully immersive virtual environments, it suddenly becomes convincing. It's alive. It fulfills that fantasy you had when you're playing with your blocks and your G.I. Joes and stuff when you're a kid. It's just magic. So doing even the simplest thing of observing something that's like a static toy, if you're looking at little G.I. Joe figures, oh, it's cool, and you can play. I'm bouncing around, and that's a neat experience in the real world. And then when you go and play video games, it's never really as convincing because you're looking at a 2D screen. There's a lot of imagination that you have to do, pretend you're there. But now we've come back to the point where it's real. Virtual reality makes it real. So now, oh, I've got that little thing in front of me, and I'm looking left and right, and it's I'm zooming in. It's it feels so cool to see it, and then it starts moving. Because it's virtual reality, it's not actual reality. I don't need to worry about putting little motors in this stuff. It's I've got my entire toolbox of game design and years of experience doing this stuff. It's just happening in the real world. So it's blending that fantasy environment that you can do anything with convincing you at the same time that it's real. And that's why it's magic. It's a starting point from where we can create so many new experiences.
All right, so how did you take advantage of the VR in the gameplay experience?
We took advantage of the gameplay experience in VR just because you're in VR. It sounds simple. People are wow, what's different about it? It's no, really, just being immersed in an environment is so powerful. And until you put on a headset, it's hard to explain, but it's just look at the world around you. It's actually pretty cool. I can look at my cereal bowl and just enjoy the fact that the light plays off of it and kind of clink on it with a spoon, and that's a really cool experience. It's reality is powerful, and virtual reality is that. It mixes everything we've been doing in games and entertainment with reality, and it's much easier to do it when you put on a headset than to make a big animatronic environment. That doesn't scale. Now anybody can buy a headset, put it on, you've instantly got this new world.
That's amazing. Can you talk about the story and settings for the game?
So our story and setting for the game of AirMech is placing you in a believable world. So you're a little bit in the future, and we'd use this dressing of you're in a bunker. It's enough to pass okay, I know where I am. I'm grounded in this world. And then you see this tabletop open up in front of you, and this is a representation of, imagine you're a general in the future, and this is a representation of what's going on outside of you. And players come to realize that I'm actually inside this thing that I'm seeing. That's kind of the hook and twist for AirMech, that you're defending yourself. And you can only convince somebody of that in VR because they don't get it at first. They just, okay, I'm in a space, that's cool. Now I see this little battle going on. Oh, that's cool. Oh, wait a minute, that just that panel fell off of that thing, and oh, these pipes were starting to fall down, and it happened when they were attacking my thing. Oh, this is actually me. And that's the big reveal that there's no other way to do that than VR.
How do you feel you're pushing things forward with this title?
With AirMech VR, we feel that we're setting a benchmark for a just a reference perfect VR experience. We use custom engine and custom tech to have no latency, realistically as little latency as is physically possible. So people are why does it feel so real? it's because that was super important to us as developers. It's like, from the beginning, we weren't like, oh, we'll fix up the frame rate later or whatever. It was super important that it had to just feel real, because I tell people, like, it doesn't matter what you're trying to show them. You could show somebody a box, in like a simple box. It's nothing. If it's in VR, and when you move your head to the side and move it up and down and look around it, as long as you're rock solid, a box looks cool. And everything you've done, if you drop a single frame, it's like, that feels bad. And if you're a couple frames behind when you move side to side, that doesn't feel good. It's like you're just losing the player there, and you're losing that immersion. So number one rule is don't do anything to lose that immersion, and then you're just adding on top of it. So like, you could say a box is cool. Well, a little robot mech that's running around and shooting and cutting things up with a sword is super cool when you don't have to question whether you're in this environment or not.